We play and call it work.
Hey everybody, Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com, and welcome to another episode of Lore Hunter, where I hunt for the answers to your lore questions for Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar. If you have a question that you want me to answer, make sure you leave it in the comments below, and make sure you thumb up any questions that you really want to see answered, as I'll most likely choose from the ones that have been thumbed up the most, as long as I can find an answer to them. It's interesting because the first bunch of episodes, I cherry-picked questions which I mainly knew the answer to or knew I could find the answer to quickly. We're now going to be doing a few episodes of things that I had to do a lot more research on because they start to get a little more vague, and I was very curious to find the answers, and it wasn't just as simple as doing a quick Google search. I had to dig a little deeper into some codexes, to some source material, and of course the various wikis that help us to compile all this information together. What a wondrous age we live in. So today we're going to talk about Space Marines and eating. The question comes from Morgan Kelly. What do Space Marines eat and drink? If they do, which I assume they must. And if they do, how do they get rid of the waste, as I assume it would be very inconvenient to have to take your power armor off and squat over a log whilst hundreds of orcs charge at you? Well, that one's actually the easy part of the question. The harder one is, what do they eat and drink, and do they have to? Well, Morgan Kelly, that was a great question. The first answer to your question is yes, they must eat and drink. The laws of thermodynamics state that you cannot just keep making energy out of nothing, and they consume a lot of energy. Dwayne Johnson, apparently consumes about 12,000 calories a day to keep up with his regime. Space Marines are a lot bigger than The Rock. Even though The Rock is awesome, he is not a Space Marine. And so I would assume that they need at least that many calories, 12,000 calories, plus they carry around their power armor. I know it's power armor, so it's powered, but there's still a lot of work to do with that, and there's a lot of stuff that they have to work on. So science-wise, they must eat a lot. Now, that doesn't mean they have to eat all the time, nor does it mean they have to eat normal food that we eat, because like lions in the wilderness, they might be able to eat a lot all at once and store the energy for later. And there's also a lot of very efficient recycling that has to do with the way that their power armor works. So in doing the research for this, I found a lot of interesting information. First off, you have to understand the makeup, the genetic, or the biology of a Space Marine and all the extra organs that have been put into their body. So to answer your question really quick, they can eat whatever we can eat. They can eat regular food, and they can consume it and get energy from it and nutrients just like we do. So first obvious answer to Space Marines, what do Space Marines eat and drink, is the same things that any human can eat or drink. Where it gets more interesting is what they can eat or drink that we cannot. So there are a few organs that are installed into a neophyte that's going to be turned into a Space Marine that help them to survive. And I'm going to try to pronounce these properly, as they are really weird names. For example, we have the preomner. Now this thing is attached to the stomach. It's not meant to digest anything, but it's meant to decontaminate. So if you eat something that is radioactive or is poisonous, this thing will kind of test it, and it will remove the toxins from that food before it gets deposited into the stomach, which can then safely digest it. Then we have probably the weirdest one, which is the homophagia, I don't know how to say that, but I think it's called the Devourer. But either way, this is where they can learn from things that they eat. So apparently this organ is attached to the spinal cord and to the brain and to the whole digestive system. And when they're eating something, it'll sequence the DNA and the RNA and apparently grab the last memories of whatever they are eating, because apparently that's stored in DNA, which, I believe it is because Assassin's Creed told me that it is, so it must make sense. And so when they eat it, they can actually gain the last memories of it. So this is really useful if you're on a new planet and you don't really know about how to survive. You just capture one of the local animals and eat it, and you learn from it about how it survives. Could also possibly learn the memories of your foes, and if you really need to, learn their secrets. Now, this unfortunately has led to some of the degenerative practices a lot of the Space Marines, even the good ones, of that. When you hear about flesh tears, there's a reason they're called flesh tears. They've kind of grown to like this. In fact, the whole blood drinking and flesh eating and cannibalism thing is a part of many of the Space Marine chapters' culture. sometimes for necessity and sometimes because they just like it. So, yay, good guys. We also have the Neuro Glottis, which is the taster. This is part of what is in their mouth, that when they're eating something, they can analyze it biochemically. So this also helps them smell things. They can taste something. So before they eat it, they can put it in their mouth, and it'll analyze it biochemically, so they're able to tell if it is actually edible. And remember, edible to them is different than edible to us. So they're able to bring in a lot more because of all these different organs. The first one to analyze it to see if it's edible to begin with. The second one to learn from the DNA that's part of the flesh of the animal or whatever it is that they're eating. The next to decontaminate it so that they can eat things that normally would kill a regular human being. And then there are obviously very hardy digestive system that allows them to then take it all in. Apparently, I've even read somewhere, I can't remember the source, that some neophytes have ceramide laced into their food to help build their skeleton structure, because apparently that's how biology works, something like that. Another interesting note is we do have different kinds of food that aren't necessarily necessary but are part of the culture. The one that came to mind was the Fenrisian ale, made on Fenris, which is a big, something that the space wolves like, let's just put it that way. They like their Fenrisian ale. And then we have probably what is the most common food, which is a type of nutrient paste that is recycled into their suit. So when I said that their power armor is efficient, what I mean by that is it does a good job of recycling the waste of the Space Marine so they can eat it again. Yes, they eat their own poop. Now, I haven't read anywhere where it describes this process in detail, so I don't think it's like they're like, and then they like open a compartment in the back and they pull it out and like this little package that they wrap and then eat it. It's probably more likely that internally a mixture of the organs plus the power armor takes the waste material, filters it, and finds the good stuff out of it and puts that back into the body, maybe right just straight into the bloodstream. It's actually, if that's how it works, would be brilliant, because it would allow you to get maximum of all the nutrients. Because when you poop, there is still nutrients in there, hence why it makes good fertilizer, hence why other animals will eat the poop, all that kind of stuff. And why bugs love it, because there's still plenty of good bacteria, there's other nutrients that your body just didn't quite, if you eat corn, you see a lot of that leftover corn there, there's still stuff in there that could be eaten, just your body's not good enough at doing that. So imagine if you could take that and you could recycle it in a way to get rid of all the nastiness and just leave nutrients, and then you just stick that back in your body, bypassing your taste buds, of course, because there's no way that it wouldn't taste awful. It would just be awful, and I wouldn't want to have to eat that. So that allows them to probably get more nutrients out of the food. Like we would consume 2,000 calories, and that same amount of food to them might end up being 3,000 calories because they're able to eke more out of it, because there's just so much waste when we are, this factory, that is our body as it eats food, there's a lot of energy that is put into it and taken out of it that doesn't contribute to our actual body, and that's all necessary, and that's fine. The body is a wonderful thing. But the Space Marines can do it even better, because the Space Marines just do everything better. That's a Space Marine, except for being like human. They don't do being human better. They're much worse at being human than humans are at being human. So thank you, Morgan Kelly, for that awesome question. Hopefully that answered some of it. And if you have a question that you'd like me to answer or hunt for the answer, go ahead and put it in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Happy wargaming.